Okay, good morning. It's Thursday, September 21st. Welcome to open session. Just want to make sure. Okay, we just had the open session for this morning and nothing closed. So let's rock and roll, and let's start with Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have Priority Carol, see what's on our minds, and a proclamation, and then we'll get right into to open session topics. Commissioner Guerin, or not, I apologize. Well, go ahead, Commissioner Guerin. I was going to start that
That's
side.
fine if you want to.
No.
You doesn't
it's all
bother.
good.
Whatever you want to do.
Well, we're doing it. Okay, good morning. Good morning.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. The cold open is always a little tough. Good morning, Carroll County. I've got a couple things on my mind, but I first wanted to share an experience I had Sunday morning. I attended the second Riot for Responders event at the Carroll County Equestrian Center. For those of you not familiar with the Equestrian Center, it's located down in Woodbine in my district, almost to the Howard County line. What a fantastic event. It was a second annual event. We had a little bit of rain, but there were a lot of people there. Last year, they had even more rain, and I was really amazed at how much money they raised. I won't mention the amount, but it was in the thousands, going for a good cause then. And this year, the donations, any proceeds raised, were going to go to the Winfield Fire Company, the Lisbon Fire Company, and to purchase 2 vests for canine dogs. Again, just a terrific event. There's some of the Winfield's vehicles. I am not a horse person, but I am always amazed when I see people on horses exercising horsemanship, and it was just fascinating to see all the age groups there, young and old. I was happy to be standing outside the paddock fence watching them because there were some really big horses there, and even bigger horses coming up for Mule Days here in a couple weeks at the same location. But if you can go back to the photograph, so again, there's me, but there's Barbara and Rachel Carr and Jill Garenko here with me, some of the main organizers for the event. And I also want to thank Joe Dragon and Carol Garber for their help and assistance. Again, we had a great time. There will be running this event next year. I'll be mentioning it before it happens. And let's get out there, Carroll County, and support this event and all the other great ones that we have going on in the county. 2 follow-on comments. It was mentioned in last week's Priority Carol, the issue of mandates and masks, and the COVID shot came up and things of that nature. And it's clear that there's a majority of this board that wants to make sure people exercise their own free will when it comes to masks, social distancing, and things like that in the future. So count me as one of those people who want to put the county and the county employees at ease, that those are things we will not be going back to. And if we have to create an ordinance, so we have to make a vote, we'll do that. I don't think we do right now, but I think what's more important than that is to just let people know that the decision will be yours going forward. And I think that of several of us up to this point, and there may be others, have made that very clear. And that's a message for businesses, county employees, residents, that we're not doing that again. It amazes me as a parent of 3 teenagers during that time, that very difficult time when they were locked out of school, to see other parents taking out of their free time to go ensure and protest that my kids should be wearing masks, and there were even parents who were advocating that schools shouldn't even open. Those things happened in front of the school board. Those are real things. and I'm always amazed by that. Most of us who had people at home, kids at home, were struggling with this issue of being locked out of school and trying to work and make a living. We didn't really have a whole lot of time to go up there and counter protest, I guess, if you will. But it always amazed me that there were parents who wanted to keep the schools closed and wanted to keep masks on the kids, and I'll never quite understand that. Another thing I don't understand is how probably maybe some of those same parents are showing up at school board meetings and advocating that sexually explicit and pornographic material should be in our schools. I know that some people in the county have taken a close look at who some of those folks are, and again, it's their right. They can do it. But many of them don't live in the county. That's not a surprise. But I'm amazed by that as well. The school system is taking a very hard and I think measured look at how to handle this issue. But you shouldn't have to argue that some of those books don't belong in a school. They're not being banned. If you're a parent and you want to purchase those books for your personal library and do that as bedtime stories, that is completely up to you. That would be a little weird, but it's your choice, because we're here talking about choice. So I wanted to mention those two topics. They're important. I had some colleagues mention that last week, and I wanted to be clear where I fell on that. This is about, and it always should be about, education. What are we doing in our public school systems that are teaching kids? That should be the bottom line. It's unfortunate that these things are a distraction, but I do support the actions of the school system, our Board of Education, and I appreciate the effort that a lot of the parents are taking to have some of these things removed at great personal sacrifice in some cases. Some of them are being attacked viciously, and it's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. So I wanted to make it clear on those 2 points, and that is all for me. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. Good morning. I wanted to mention a couple things. Obviously, the first being this past Saturday was the 39th Maryland Wine Festival at the Carroll County Farm Museum. It was a very well-attended event, and the weather couldn't have been nice, including our Secretary of Ag, Kevin Addix. It was great to see him. I also was able to catch up with a friend of mine, Kimberly of Philosophy Winery and Vineyard. It's the first African-American woman-owned winery in the state of Maryland. We have a number of female-owned wineries in Carroll County now. I know that may not be something everybody's totally familiar with, but it's always great to see new people getting into various businesses, and it was a pleasure to talk to a number of them. I'm hoping to have some follow-up conversation, learn more about what they're doing, and potentially how we may be able to work with them economically as they grow their businesses with our economic development group here in the county. But all in all, it was a great day, and obviously next year is going to be the 40th Wine Festival, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what great ideas and how we pull that off next year. Wanted to mention a couple of upcoming events. It will be this Sunday, September 24th, there will be a Gold Star Family event that is being held at it's a luminary event at 6 p.m. and a ceremony following at 7. This will be Bridging Life that is holding that event. It's an opportunity to light luminaries in honor of Gold Star families and their loved ones killed in action. Also be honoring other veterans and first responders who have passed. So just wanted to mention that event. If anyone's interested in turning out, I think that'll be a wonderful event to turn out to and respect and give support to those that have done so much for us. Also, this one's a little farther down, but on November 10th there will be a veterans honoring breakfast by LifeBridge as well, which will be honoring veterans, and that's Friday, November 10th, and that'll be at the East Pavilion at Carroll Hospital. That'll be another well-attended and successful event, I have no doubt. One other thing I did want to mention up event-wise that many people in the Westminster community and Carroll County as a whole are obviously aware of is tonight's the beginning of Fall Fest. So tonight we'll have the parade starting, I think, around 7 o'clock or so. And then we will have Fall Fest continuing from Thursday through the rest of the weekend. fingers and toes crossed on the weather. The weekend looks a little rainy to say the least, but it's always a great time. And I myself will be handing out pumpkins for kids this year, as I always do with a personal friend and small business owner in ag. So I will be there tonight and the parade as well. One other topic I want to bring up, I know we've talked about kids going back to school and safety regarding buses and just people in general, but there was an incident recently in Cockeysville, and I realize that's not in Carroll County, but this is important. There were 2 pedestrians that were hit last weekend in Cockeysville. One was fatally killed, unfortunately, and the other was seriously injured. And I just want to make this point to everybody, whether you're driving, whether you're walking, try to be as cognitive or cognizant and aware as you can be. I know at times we're distracted when we're driving that usual path, whether it's to a lunch meeting or home or whatever. We're, maybe playing with the radio in the car, but please just try to be really, really aware. I had a conversation earlier this week with the city of Westminster regarding one specific area in Westminster, and I know various citizens had reached out to me, and I believe a couple have reached out to some with the city as well. The intersection of West Main, Bond, and John Street, some of those lights are a little tricky timing-wise, and also you have situations where the public is having a lot of serious risk as they cross that. Drivers aren't really paying attention completely, and there's been a few close calls. I've had a few people reach out and call me, so it was a good productive conversation with the city. But just everybody, just try to be careful, because the last thing we want to see is somebody seriously injured or killed anywhere, but definitely in Carroll County. So just, if you could, just try to be aware as you're out there, and I appreciate that. And that's all I have today.
Thanks. Commissioner Kyler.
Thank you, and I'll start. I love Carroll County, and this is a great job, and thank you guys. Couple things. Boys State, I was lucky enough to take a candidate for Boys State, and he probably wants to go to a service academy, down to Hampstead's American Legion to talk about the application process and what all happens. And he's a great kid and has a great resume, and I'm sure he'll be successful at both things. But one of the things that came up, and I know Boys State's been getting a little smaller in the last few years, and we really need to encourage kids to go to that. If it's somewhat military, it's also government. They elect officials, and they start out as a dictatorship and then transition to where they elect their own people. It's a great learning experience. It's at I almost said Western Maryland. It's at McDaniel. But the American Legions don't get kids applying, and you don't have to do it at your local Legion. You can, if Hampstead has too many, I can bug Commissioner Rothstein and try to get one in Sykesville or something. But and in particular, they don't have a lot of people from Baltimore City. They don't have as many from Carroll County as I think we should, but they don't have very many from Baltimore City. I'm going to try to go through the wrestling community and beat the streets wrestling in Baltimore and some things to try to get it. But I just wanted to encourage everybody to look at it. I think a lot of people don't even know it happens. And there's also a girls' state. The auxiliaries at the Legions do those, and it's a little bit different rules. Like a lot of things, I think they're starting to mesh, and they'll be more similar as time goes on, but they're both great events. And for service academies, I think attending Boys States counts as 25 positive points on your application. So I just wanted to mention that. And the Legions are great. VFWs are great. They're all the veterans in Carroll County. It's amazing what all we do. But these young kids, high school kids, you go between your junior and senior year. So it's not too, if you have a son or daughter in high school, it's not too early to start talking about it. I went down to Finksburg to the State Highways meeting for 91 and 140. Essentially, they have a very poor design solution to a problem down there, and I think enough citizens were there who use that intersection every day that they got the message, and they're going to hold another meeting at Sandy Mount Elementary probably. That'll be more of a town hall and more organized. I think they learned in a couple days before it what they were going to see that night, and I give them credit. They could have easily canceled it. That would have looked bad, and I'm so glad they had it and people got to talk. But if you're interested in 91 and 140, that's a very busy intersection. Please look out for the town hall meeting that the state's going to do. Along with that, sometime in the next 3, 4, 5 months, probably the project's going to start for the 2 bridges on 91, which will be an extensive detour. I haven't yet. I will today. I want to email District 7 and ask them if they have a potential start date and encourage them to put up a couple signs that say construction starting December 1st, October, whatever it is, October 1st. I'm not sure the date, but a lot of rumors are going around Finksburg how quickly it started. I did get to speak at a chamber breakfast this week, and that was great. It's great, some of the events that the chamber does organize in Carroll County. It was a good crowd there, and I think a good breakfast. I was also at Veterans Advisory, and that's always great, and it's always great to hear from so many different veterans. And it's good attendance there. I always wish, more people would come, but we have some of the representatives for our congressmen and senators in D.C. that are regularly there and listen and comment, and it's just nice to see all that. I was at the community college's trustees meeting last night, and that's another jewel we have here in Carroll County. And a couple things. They talked about workforce development and how they're working on that. They had representatives down in Arundel when we were there. Now, some of them came Monday, Wednesday. We happened to be there Tuesday, but they were there, and they complimented what Carroll County does and what Heather Powell does. So that was nice to hear last night. We also talked a little bit about COVID. Some things are just coming back, and Commissioner Guerin alluded to it, and he had teenage boys at home, so he took the brunt of it. But these kids are just recovering from some of it, and I understand the fear, the lies we were told, and it was new, and we had to react. But we just and we talked about that at the college last night. We just can't let this happen to kids again. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize, and Commissioner Guerin said it, but I don't think we can say it loudly enough. I am not opposed to masks. I don't care if you get a vaccine once a month. I'm for individual rights. If you want to do that, go do it. And if you feel safer, so be it. If you feel ill and you think a mask is protecting, do it. But don't tell me I have to do it, because I have my individual rights also. So, and you said it, but I just wanted to piggyback it. I'm doing my podcast this week, and what I'm doing this week is Rick Baker is going to join me, and he'll talk about half the time. I figure I'm boring enough for 10 or 15 minutes, so we'll have somebody else for a third or half of it. If anybody else is ever interested in piggybacking any of my podcasts, please holler. I'd love to have people do it. I mentioned last week, but I went to the opioid prevention meeting for 2 hours at the health department, which was awesome. And I just want to mention that again. We get concerned about COVID, for instance, but suicides, mental health, drug abuse, that's a way bigger issue, and we've got to focus on that. Commissioner Guerin also mentioned books at the school, and yes, they're not being banned, and I look at both sides. The people asking for it to be reviewed, they have every right to do it. the people that think they ought to be in school, they have every right to think that also. Again, they're making a decision that affects my grandchildren. So I'm not sure I want it. And I will say, I love Carroll County. I also love my wife. Rhonda bans sexual content and porn at our house, and I follow it. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. As my fellow commissioners know, I spoke about these two topics at length last week, so all I'll say this morning in that regard is that I once again echo the same thoughts and concerns up here as that. I also want to say that it really is a pleasure and a privilege to be able to serve with all of you. So earlier this week, I had the privilege of taking a tour of the Lehigh Cement Plant, which is now under Heidelberg Materials over in Union Bridge. Chad Green, the plant safety manager and also the chief at the Union Bridge Fire Company, was gracious enough to lend me some of his time to show me around from the top of the tower here.
You do look quite safe.
I didn't fall off, so.
It's a big fall if you did.
Yes. And what's interesting is when you're up there, you have buzzards and hawks and all these other kinds of birds of prey that are flying level with you, and that's interesting to see them at that height, at that eye level. So again, Chad Green was gracious enough to show me around and to lend me some of his time. And so to me, it's really incredible what that company is able to do, how professional they are, how community-oriented they are. They move over 3 million tons of materials a year. They're globally recognized. They're always looking forward. And they're always looking to support Union Bridge and Carroll County through different events, functions, and other activities. And I really do believe that they are a blessing to our county, and I can't wait to go back for another visit. And then probably for me, the coolest thing was to go to the bottom of the old quarry. The length of this thing, it takes over a mile to get from the plant to the back of the quarry. And you really don't get the sense of the scale of this place until you stand at the bottom. It's over 300 feet down. And it really is an incredibly, it really is an incredible place. And yes, I was wearing a tie and a jacket, as you can tell. So I add that to my list now.
Say anything.
All right. I saw the look. So I've ridden an e-bike in a suit now. I've played pickleball in a suit, and I've gone up and down into a quarry in a tie and a jacket. So in the weeks ahead, we have some awesome autumn events coming up in District 1. Tawnytown has its annual Harvest Fest coming up on Saturday, September 30th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Tawnytown Memorial Park. Admission is free. There will be pony rides, a petting zoo, games, bounce houses, a straw maze, hay rides, and live music by the Twisted Blues Band. There are also going to be many food and craft vendors there as well. In Union Bridge on October 1st, the Union Bridge Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary will be holding their apple dumpling sale at the Fire Hall, featuring baked, unbaked, and sugar-free apple dumplings. On October 6th, the Union Bridge Lions Club will be holding their Polish pottery bingo at New Windsor Fire Hall, and yes, I did read that correctly. I think it's always wonderful when Carroll's municipalities cross boundaries for community events, because it truly does demonstrate the sense of community that we in our county have. Last but not least, New Windsor's annual Music on the Main event will return on Saturday, October 7th from 1 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. There are going to be all kinds of activities and fun things to do there, including face painting for the kids and a bounce house. There'll be all kinds of craft and food vendors as well as live music. I've been to a number of these events over the years, and they're all very much worth attending. And Commissioner Rothstein, that's all for me this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
His preparation always makes me think of something I skipped, and I had it written down. Maryland Print House is going to have a ribbon cutting tomorrow with the chamber,
Yep.
and they're now in Westminster at the old Spiderweb building near the airport, noon to 2, I think.
Tomorrow or Saturday?
Saturday. Did I say tomorrow? I'm sorry.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
You're that excited about it. You're moving it ahead in time.
And my excitement is they left Melrose in my district and moved to your district, but they're still in Carroll County, and they're a great bunch. That's a bunch of I call them kids. A couple of them straight from high school decided they wanted to form a company instead of going away to college, and they formed Maryland Print House. And they've been very creative and very innovative and done pretty well. They lost when COVID hit and we took 15 days to calm down. they lost multiple orders of T-shirts from schools, from sports teams, from rec teams, and a week later they were selling masks. So I give them credit. They adapt, and it's a good bunch of people, young men, young women, not kids, and please support them. Sorry.
So, no, it's all good. So you lost them, but you gained Hans.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a swap from
It's an even
from
trade, but we'll
three-
take it.
So from 3 to 2 and 2 to 3. Okay. A couple of things as shared by Commissioner Gordon. The wine festival was awesome. Got my mom out there, and she just really enjoyed it with Audrey and friends, and good recommendation from Commissioner Gordon on the wine.
Philosophy?
Which one?
Philosophy?
Yeah, philosophy. And what was really cool about philosophy is I bought a bottle of cold white, whatever it was, probably Pinot, and she says, "Would you like a bag?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" It's like, this ain't going nowhere but down my gullet that day. So I don't think we brought any wine back through a bag, but we did partake in lots of different wines, and the venue was, of course, wonderful. Appreciate the awesome weather. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and really a lot of kudos to the Farm Museum team, along with all those in support. Our sheriff's department was out there, and everybody just seemed to have just a great time during that event. I did go to Commissioner Kyler's breakfast yesterday at the Chamber at the North Carolina Library.
Did I keep you awake?
You did. Barely. No, you did. The Chamber does such a good job promoting opportunities for small businesses in the community and hosting these breakfasts where we get to speak pretty much unscripted on what we believe are our priorities in the community. And no, Commissioner Kyler did a great job, I felt. And what, to bring it down into what he shared, not all of the details, but the responsibilities as a commissioner. And the responsibilities as a commissioner comes down to allocation of resources, time, people, and money. And really, overall, all the things you shared, that, that's what it came down to. How are we allocating our folks in Carroll County with DPW, with the roads, with, how are we allocating our time, spending it, whether it's at the breakfast or here in open session or at the community college, council or board of trustees, or the planning, commission that you attend, the Veterans Advisory. It's how we are allocating our time, and then how we allocate our money. And we, it's a challenge to do all three and then kind of nest it together. But that's really what our role is resource allocation, time, people, and money. And, I kind of captured that as Commissioner Kyler was speaking on all of the different activities that are taking place. So really appreciate your time spent yesterday morning. What I'd like to do is segue right into a proclamation, and this is a tough one because one, I think all of us would like to share in the proclamation, all of us up here in the dais, on the importance of this. But I decided I want to take this one on and share a few words, and then read the proclamation on Suicide Prevention Month. So, ladies or whoever would like to come up and highlight some of the activities that we're doing in Carroll County in prevention of this evil that's out there, and how we need to continue to focus on silencing the stigma associated with mental health that can lead into suicide. It's been years. People know I was in uniform, but it's been years since I ran the installation. But what got me focused on resiliency was having 6 suicides in a year that I just was like, enough's enough, and we got to do something about it. And it wasn't meaning I was going to stop all suicide, but I was going to do my damnedest to mitigate the situation and develop a program of resiliency where folks can go to. And we have the 988 cards, and our military and our veterans, every time I call for health care, they lead me to either emergency 911, or if thoughts of suicide, call 988, and which will get you to the regional from your area code. Healthcare, appropriate healthcare. So continuing to promote that is huge. It's tough. I mean, it's a tough road, and there's still, one is too much. But as we're going to look at 620 over last year in Maryland is way too much. But the proclamation is in September 23rd, that September is known globally as Suicide Prevention Month, suicide as a national and statewide public health problem, and suicide prevention as a national and statewide responsibility. Whereas suicide has a widespread impact on our community, this year the CDC report that suicide deaths increased in the U.S. between 2021. In 2021, we lost 620 fellow Marylanders, and exponentially more were impacted by each loss. Additionally, for each suicide loss, there were approximately 8 emergency department visits related to suicide and 38 self-reported attempts. And whereas we encourage all residents to take the time to learn more about the warning signs and what to do if you are concerned about someone, learn that resources are available both locally and nationally, such as the 988 hotline, the National Crisis Line. Find out how you can take steps to protect your loved ones, check in with your friends, family, and neighbors. And if you are struggling yourself, know you're not alone, and help is always available. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 23rd as Suicide Prevention Month. And just to add on to that, and I'm going to allow those on the dais to, speak, and then, of course, as you ladies, I feel like nobody is immune to knowing someone that has either committed suicide or has made attempts in committing suicide. Most recently, my wife's cousin is mid-20s, married with a kid, decided to take his own life. It is happening, and there's not enough push-ups I can do, to represent our commitment to suicide prevention. That was a thing to do. I think it was just a thing to do during, COVID, just to keep us active. But, there's not enough things we can do to just be so outspoken about how we need to minimize it and take away the stigma associated with suicide. Those are my thoughts, but gentlemen, if you have any thoughts, and give it to the ladies.
I'll just very briefly echo everything that Commissioner Rothstein so capably and well said. Thank you for the efforts that you have in this. Could not have the ability to try to counter this without people willing to step up to try to prevent it. So thank you very much for that. And the last thing I'll say is that if you are in a serious situation, as Commissioner Rothstein said, there are resources, there are paths for help. And please understand that you are worth it. You are worth this life. You are worth every single moment of it. And again, I pray to God for anybody who has these concerns. And again, I just cannot emphasize this enough. You are worth it. You are worth it.
Yeah.
And we recently lost an 18-year-old in Westminster. And at the celebration of life at the funeral home, both, the common theme I heard from all the relatives is we had no idea. We saw no warning signs, and I don't know if you guys may already have that on your topics today, but there has to be warning signs, but how can we see them? Do we are we blind to them? Do we rationalize our way out of them? They got to be there. And it really struck me with this young gentleman that even up until 15 minutes before, they said we had no warning. And it's frustrating. So thank you for all you do, and
Yeah.
everybody up here said some good things, but it just that hit me harder with him than it has in other times, and I could go through others. My wife was probably the last one to see her brother, and I thought we saw signs because he didn't want to stay to see me, which, maybe he's just smart, but he didn't want to stay to talk to me, and I think he was afraid I'd see through it. But hindsight, I thought, I think he lied to her, but I didn't do anything about it, So, how do we get smacked with these warning signs and do something? Because you guys can do all you can do, but if the immediate family doesn't see it, it's tough. So thank you.
And that kid, good-looking kid, football, wrestling, had a future in front of him, and yeah.
And I'll just briefly echo my fellow commissioners' points. Obviously, it's something that affects all of us, whether it's family, friends, community members, which we all are family in that sense. And to Commissioner Kyler's point, are there warning signs? I've had this affect people I've known personally over the years, and in many cases, no one had a clue. I appreciate all the hard work and dedication you all put into what you do to assist with this. I think one of the biggest challenges is just letting people know if you have a problem, communicate it. I'm always fascinated, and not in a good way, how there's such a stigma towards mental health, whether it's kids, whether it's adults. If you break an arm, you go to the doctor. Something's physically wrong, we do that. But for some reason, we as a society still don't seem to have gotten past that. So I appreciate all the hard work you all do and everyone else. Obviously, it sneaks up on people, and it's something that I think I can speak for all of us. It's something we'd rather not see at all, let alone it sneaking up on us. But thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Of course, I concur with my colleagues, and if we don't do it today, let's make sure we have a discussion about some tangible things that people can do. We know 988 exists. What about if you think somebody's suicidal? Who do you call? If you're a student in a public school here in Carroll County, who do you go to? So let's have that discussion. If we don't have it today, then we'll have to get something up for Priority Carroll next week if it's just graphics. But let's just, let's make sure people understand literally what buttons to press and what people to go talk to. Because, I think this is, as somebody with 3 teenagers, I think there's a lot of people struggling with this.
So I appreciate all the comments, and typically you want proclamations to be happy proclamations and wonderful, exciting. This proclamation is probably more important in the sense that we need, as we say, to silence the stigma associated and focus not just on today but 24/7. So, but ladies.
So Commissioners, my name is Veronica Dietz. I'm the Director of Crisis Services at the Carroll County Health Department in our local Behavioral Health Authority. We cannot thank you enough for taking the time to talk about this, to look at this, but specifically I want to thank you, Commissioner Rothstein, for always being a voice of breaking stigma, and again, Commissioner Guerin, for being a part of our 988 rollout and being an ambassador for those pieces. Discussions and conversations around mental health can be very stigmatizing. It does not get the conversation that it probably needs to, and we know from data and statistics that 1 in 5 individuals is dealing with some kind of mental health disorder. And so that tells us that it's a conversation that we need to be having more regularly. At the local Behavioral Health Authority, we have recently submitted our 3-year strategic plan. And we can tell you today that 3 of our goals, we submitted 3 very in-depth goals that we want to look at over the next 3 years. And 2 of those goals, 2 of the 3 goals that we submitted, all are related to expanding out and enhancing our crisis continuum and or addressing deaths of what are sometimes called deaths of despair, deaths related to overdose and or suicide. And so we take this very serious. We recognize that this is a public health issue, but we also recognize that as a community, we do what we do best here in Carroll. We collaborate. And so we are doing that at every level, including at the levels that include law enforcement, because we also know that a healthy community is a safe community. So to the point that you're making, Commissioner Guerin, that there are many things that we can be talking about that are tangible things to support our community members to better understand and recognize when someone might be dealing with very difficult, overwhelming emotions and feeling like they're at the end of their rope. Of course, we're pushing out 988. Our prevention office is working with RC Theaters to have several kind of 30-second spots that will air before movies. Just again, talking about reaching out when you have challenges or if you need some supports. We know that 988 is for resources and supports, but it is also that national hotline. If you are in a place where you need someone to speak with, that's a very quick call that you can make. We've been talking about doing a sticker shock campaign, getting that 988 information out. So getting permission and privilege to go into local businesses and putting 988 stickers on things so that as people are purchasing, they'll have that information as they go home with their purchases. We have worked very diligently to secure funding and to expand funding to a program that is called Sources of Strength. You guys may remember hearing about that within the public schools. It is a program that is suicide prevention without ever saying suicide. It really is about building up students at every level, not just those who you might identify as the leaders, but some of the leaders that might be leaders of the smaller groups, the unknown leaders. It encourages them, it gives them the skills and the tools that they need to be able to communicate with their peers, and then help to bring all that information back to trusted adults. Teaching kids how to develop relationships with trusted adults. Maybe it's not at home with mom or dad. Maybe you don't have a youth pastor or a coach that you can connect with, but there is some trusted adult that you can find in your life. And so the Sources of Strength program, we very much value, and we continue to try to find funding to expand that in our community. QPR. That stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. You may have heard of CPR. QPR is the CPR for suicide prevention. It is a way to teach people, specifically community members, how to begin to have conversations about suicide. There has been a myth that asking people if they're suicidal gives someone the idea. We know that that is not true. So QPR gives people the language they need to have conversations and ask questions and say, hey, have you been thinking about this? Knowing that you're not giving them the idea, it probably is giving a person the ability now to have the discussion and the conversation that they need to have. So that is something that we've had 2 of our staff recently trained in, and we're looking at bringing that in. You guys may know that we have a collaboration with Carroll Community. We do mental health first aid training there. That is free of charge to community members. They can go take a course to learn about behavioral health issues and to then kind of identify in the community if someone might be having a crisis and how to link them to a professional. QPR would be a similar approach where we would be able to offer that, and we want to be able to spread that far and wide to give people skills, tools that they need to identify these things. We do also have, in addition to the adult mental health first aid, we do have a youth mental health first aid curriculum where you're learning about how to work with and talk with young people around behavioral health issues. So another initiative that we're doing. And we are, in the next several months, actually going to be sending several of our staff to the annual suicide conference. That is a piece that we are just continuing to try to gather as much information, what's new, what the state is rolling down. We want to keep our staff at the cutting edge. Again, we are incredibly grateful for the support that we get from you all. We want you guys to have as much knowledge and information as we're gathering it from a public health perspective. We've recently had some conversations about the interlapping or the overlapping of substance-related stuff, substance use disorders. We are finding in our community that about a quarter of all of our non-fatal overdoses are actually suicide attempts. And so we want to take a step back and really look at that. And again, looking at the correlation between some of the substance use piece and the behavioral health piece. My colleague Amy is going to talk a little bit more about some of the prevention efforts that we're doing.
No, but before you do, just real quick, I appreciate it because that was going to be one of my questions about substance abuse, so I'm glad you covered that. 3-year strategic plan is not just for internal use, but is it available for external as well, or are there?
Public document.
It's a public document, and I would expect there's probably a an executive summary, easy to read, for somebody to say, here are the 5 to 10 things we're trying to cover in the 3 to 5 year
Yes.
or 3-year strategic plan. If you can share that with us, I would appreciate that. The sticker shock, approach, it's one of those why not, The answer is always no if you don't ask the question, so why not try it and see what we can do and accomplish it with the main streets and the communities. We did it with the heroin overdose, the movie. We had the bumper magnets, and they're still on some of our government vehicles. But if we want to take this serious, that may be another way of doing this, is get it on our bumpers and things like that. And I'm looking behind me at our DPW director, behind you, and about that. But that may be something to also do a coordinated effort with a sticker shock approach. I'm an open book about this. Let's figure it out, because one is too many, and the numbers we see are just, getting crazy. So, whatever we can do with those, I mentioned allocation of resources, time, people, and money. How do we do that best to meet these needs? So,
And you mentioned overdoses, fatal and non-fatal, being suicide. One of the things, again, about warning signs, and I do not think it was a factor with the young man lately, but my brother-in-law, I'm pretty sure one of the reasons he wanted to leave before I got home from work was because he was high as a kite. Now, my wife doesn't always recognize. We had a conversation later with a pastor, and Rhonda said, "Oh, he was so well spoken and so whatever. He wasn't on drugs." And the guy said, "No, he probably was, and that's why he was that way." But do the drugs mask some of the warning signs because of that, or is just the drug use itself a giant warning sign? It's
Yeah.
tough.
That's it. And the thought really is it's a chicken and egg kind of thing, right? Like, did someone's substance use lead to, depths of despair because there's that struggle, right? We know that at a certain point, substance use sometimes stops being a choice and becomes a biological drive. That can be very challenging. And I think there's lots of research and there's lots of studies that need to be done to really kind of look at that. I think that we don't want to wait for that to be done. We want to just continue to plug these conversations. So,
Thank you.
Good question. Please.
Hi, I'm Kathy Baker, the director of the LBHA, and I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to bring this before you. Commissioner Rothstein, you highlighted a lot of the things I want to talk about, just basically about anti-stigma. There's such a barrier, and we do have our CARE campaign that's been around since 2018 to talk about, just sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody, and that's when these conversations start happening. You may not see signs, but you may see something, and you just want to have a cup of coffee with them. And just to relieve the pressure about the sticker shock, we're really talking about window clings. We're not really wanting to put stickers on the state vehicles and the county vehicles. So, but it's just really a matter of these vehicles are in the community all the time, and I really think it's important for us to get that message out to people. Not everybody watches the commissioners meeting, which is unfortunate. We talk about a lot of things here, and I really think that if we could just get them out on vehicles, people pay attention to that. They pay attention to billboards. We have a number of billboards in the community, which I think Amy's...
Like Commissioner Gordon said, it's easy to see a broken arm. It's very hard to see a broken mindset, as somebody's walking down the street. So, okay.
I'll be very brief. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Amy Legel. I'm representing the Substance Use Prevention Office for the Health Department. I just want to highlight a couple of additional things relating to substance use and also peer support. So as you know, we have our Safe Storage Initiative. And We've been doing that initiative for a number of years, and what we're doing is further educating the public that safe storage of medications doesn't just prevent diversion and substance use disorders. Medications doesn't just prevent diversion and substance use disorders. It can also prevent suicide in that time-limited crisis that an individual is experiencing. So we want to make sure that everyone is safely storing their medication out of reach, out of sight. We also have medication locking bags, and we are prioritizing distribution with our partners in the community that serve pediatric patients who may be experiencing suicidal ideation, so they can send families home with a locking bag that is just that extra barrier, that extra deterrent. We also have a suicide prevention coalition. There are so many shared risk and protective factors when it comes to substance use and suicide that many times when we're engaging in substance use prevention, we're also actively doing suicide prevention. And so that coalition is going to actually land in the substance use prevention department. And we're going to write in a position more fully that allows us to prioritize some additional things that we'd like to do. I do want to let you know specifically with medication that we are having a take-back event. It's going to be October 30th, Monday, October 30th, at the Ag Center. We appreciate them letting us use their facility. It's going to be a drive-through drop-off where people can drive through, drop off their medications, get them out of the house, and they can also drop off their used sharps for safe disposal. And there will be services there if people would like to avail themselves. We'll certainly have information about 988 there. And I know I've spoken about it before, but we have our keeptalkingcarroll.org website, which is actually just a page on the Carroll County Health Department website, but we wanted that URL because it reminds us that that conversation creates connection, and that's what community is. Community is from that connection. So we want people to keep talking about these things. So not only do we have 988 information there, we also have information about resilience and how to build resilience in children. I want to also mention that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a peer support program. And I want to thank my colleague Katie Mack for letting us know. She helped us prepare for this, and as long as I've worked with her for about a decade, she's just been a really wonderful champion for making sure that these resources are available, that staff are aware of them, and that we can inform the public about them. So essentially, individuals who have lost someone to suicide can now contact the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and receive peer support and support of their own, which is tremendously important. The last thing I'd like to talk about is a memorial bench, and I want to thank my colleague Adrienne Sanders for this. This was her idea, and she saw it completely through to fruition. I know, Commissioner Kyler, you saw this at the recent OPC meeting, and we so appreciate you attending the Opioid Coalition. This memorial bench is really dedicated to all those who have lost someone to suicide or to an overdose, and it's going to be placed in Cape Horn Park. And we'll certainly keep you informed about that dedication as we have details and plans. Just a final thing, I wanted to talk about the substance use and suicide. We certainly will and can get specific warning signs to people, and that's very important. That said, it's not uncommon at all for people to not have known them or not have seen them. And so even in mental health first aid, as an instructor, I tell people that, we can have all of the facts in the world, and we can still, unfortunately, sometimes not get the outcome we want. That said, we have to do every single thing we can to try. Just being under the influence, as Veronica said, there's a real relationship between substance use and suicide and mental health. So some individuals initiate use because they're having distressing feelings of anxiety, trauma, depression, and that's the reason they initiate use, to try and get some relief. But substance use can also trigger underlying mental health issues that may not have otherwise emerged. And just being under the influence can bring out suicidal feelings in people and ideation who even have never before experienced it. So it's important not to leave that person alone. But we can certainly get you more information about that. I highly recommend that every individual in Carroll County take our mental health first aid program. I recommend that people do take both the adult class and the youth class. They're structured differently, and they cover the action plan is the same, but you get a little bit more information about working with youth in the youth, and you get a little bit more information about the disorders in the adult. And you are taught, as Veronica said, very specific steps of how to talk with somebody who is experiencing a mental health crisis or just has an emerging issue, and get them to appropriate medical medical help. It really can help take the fear and discomfort as you, the individual, out of asking the question and having those conversations. So we highly recommend that. That is a free service, and it's a $175 value, and we offer it to the community for free. So we hope that people will avail themselves of that at Carroll Community College.
Is it a one-day class? Is it a?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay.
There are times where it's split into two, but yes,
It's usually an
most of the time.
8-hour class.
It's usually an 8-hour class. Okay.
And I believe in the post-COVID, and Katie Mack will help us know if I'm wrong about this, but I believe post-COVID they actually shortened it. I believe it's now just 6 or 7 hours. So
Okay.
we really encourage people to take that.
Sounds good. Any other comments?
I have one more.
Yes,
Just if anybody has questions or needs anything in the community, they can always reach out to us at the health department. And the phone number is 410-876-4449. And we're always there, Monday through Friday.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Let's commemorate this with a proclamation picture. Matt from the Magic Door will come out and down.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 1, let's talk about the Farm Museum Maintenance Building. I feel like I gotta shake off the cobwebs from that one. That's tough. So,
Thought it was going to be a good segue. We're talking about the wine festival and the farm museum and the
Oh,
beautiful
yeah,
venue,
we're
and
getting
so
there,
we're gonna
but
we're
then
gonna
we're
we're
gonna
gonna bring you back there. All right.
yeah,
All
so
right.
let's get back to the wine festival.
Thinking the same
and-
thing.
Okay.
Good morning, to you both.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am joined here today by Denise Beaver from Economic Development, and also behind us is staff from the Farm Museum and Department of Public Works Building Construction. We are here to discuss the Farm Museum's maintenance building. The story begins in March 2021. A fire destroyed everything but the concrete slab. The maintenance building was 5,600 square feet, and it was used for staff at the Farm Museum to upkeep 53 buildings on site and 150 acres on the property. After the dust settled, DPW was asked to assist with the rebuild of the building. Upon evaluating the site, reviewing plans, and interviewing staff, we approached the board in November of 2021 requesting funding for the work. Shortly after, we began reconstructing the shell of the building, and we hired an architect to assist with the fit out of the interior. Fast forward to today, the shell has been completed, and we have a beautiful set of plans to finish this project. And while we're here today, we need to discuss the project budget with you 5. So please forgive me, Ted. I'm going to talk in round numbers since there's still some outstanding invoices and insurance money coming in, and we haven't awarded the final construction. So the estimate that we came up with as the project started in November 2021 was $692,000. Given the insurance money that was provided, subtracting out the deductible, we requested $405,000 from the Board of County Commissioners. To date, we spent $286,000 on the building shell and the plans for the interior of the building. That is leaving us with a balance of $412,000. We have bid this project, and the bids came back between $660,000 and $1.1 million. Assuming something in the middle, we'll call it $1 million for talking purposes today, we're looking at a deficit of about $590,000 to complete the project as designed. Denise, anything to add?
Can you that number one more time? I'm sorry. Go back to you said you go back to the beginning. You had $405,000 left, and then you said you spent $286 on the building. And I'm sorry, what came after that?
So we were looking at the bids that came in for the project. So it hasn't been officially released. We haven't awarded the contract to anybody, but the bids did come in of a range of $660,000 to $1.1 million.
So, at the end of the day, my understanding, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, is the estimate and the approved was $692,000 in November 2021.
Yes.
You're saying now that it looks to be about 90% above that cost, and that's why you're asking for $490,000 in addition to that $692,000.
We're asking for an additional $590,000.
In addition to that $690,000, so whatever percentage that I made up 90%, but I'm
The $690 was partially paid by insurance.
yeah,
Yes.
Correct.
which 290 of it was paid by insurance. We paid 405,
Correct.
and you're still asking for another 590,
Yes, Commissioner.
which is not allocated at this time.
Correct. So we would be back, depending on the decision today, to talk about a budget transfer and awarding contract and exact values.
What do you think of value engineering? Is there much possibility of that, or will it just change the project too much?
I personally believe it'll change the project too much. We're going to be back out for design, back out for bid. We spent money on a plan set, which was the needs of the staff out there, and that's how that was established.
The 5,600 square feet was the original maintenance facility.
Correct. It was the same footprint. Yep.
So we're looking at another just 5,600 square feet.
Correct.
Nothing in addition.
Yes, we actually ended up using this concrete slab that was originally there. We had to do some repairs, but
And the building's built, remember. The building's built. This is for fit out, is what's remaining.
Yeah, we have a
This is-
shell currently.
The shop.
Say that one more time.
There's a shell currently. The building is there physically, yes.
So we're looking at the equipment and all the things that,
HVAC, electrical, specialty shops for restoration.
do the specialty shops exist elsewhere within the county where we can piggyback, or is it best suited to be there?
I would say it's best suited for there. The closest shop would be at the maintenance center at Old Meadow Branch. So it will be our facilities. They have a couple woodworking shops and welding shops there.
Right.
I think what we're looking at for the Farm Museum was some dust-free restoration shops for some of the artifacts throughout the campus over there at Farm Museum.
And they existed there last time.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, just to jump in on that point. A number of the increases were due to energy code upgrades, is that correct?
Yes, some of the upgrades were required per code, and that's something that we're still working with the insurance on. So once we get invoices and start doing work, they will be able to reimburse us for some of that.
And I'm just going to go ahead and publicly mention this right now. The building we're looking at is 5,600 square feet. Currently, you have a maintenance staff that runs that property, 150 acres, 50-some buildings, working in a 960 square foot basement. Myself and Commissioner Vigliotti toured that yesterday, and I can say nothing but to commend those gentlemen for what they're doing. I think it's incredible that they've been able to maintain that property since 2021 without the functional structures they need. I mean, we just had a wine festival, and I didn't see anything that seemed out of place or out of miss. So, I mean, obviously this is a challenging issue to say the least, but I think we've got to give, proper recognition where recognition's due, which is everybody involved up to date.
And I'm in complete agreement with Commissioner Gordon. You know, having the opportunity to go over to see what these gentlemen are working out of. I mean, it's a cramped basement, and they're sharing it with the Farm Museum itself. There really is no room to do anything, and the size and the scope of the projects that they have to undertake are limited to what they can fit through that door, going into the basement. And then going into the basement, on either side, you have these stone retaining walls that also limit access and maneuverability as well. In my mind, I think this is absolutely necessary that we do this, not only because of the scope of what's involved, but because of the amount of reliance that we have on the Farm Museum for events and different functions that we go through as a county.
I understand, I think. I just want to make sure I'm clear that, you know, especially the challenging times we're in, that we can not just get by, but do the things we want to do, but also not duplicate services and capabilities. That's my biggest concern. I mean, we are in a very difficult, you know, budget season, and it's going to get hard and harder and harder. Can there be stepping stones associated with this where we're not outfitting the entire building, but we're doing X using the maintenance facility, and if that meets the needs, then that solves part of the problem. If it doesn't meet the needs, then, you know, coming back and saying we need additional funding for, you know, Y and Z. I don't know. I'm my biggest concern again is whatever we allocate, we have to maintain and operate. And I don't know if we have the dollars to do that, especially if it's duplicate. If it's not duplicate, then that's a different story.
And along with that, I think this is one-time money, and I'd be curious to hear where we're going to transfer it from and what's available. But then will this increase ongoing money?
Right.
Or is the maintenance staff out there adequate enough now, and you don't see that as an issue? Because that's a whole nother problem.
I agree, and Ted is going to answer those questions very eloquently. Go ahead, Ted.
That puts a lot of pressure on me.
You were here.
Okay, just one big point on this discussion. Nobody is suggesting that we don't move ahead with this. It's not a do it or don't do it. The question that's really in front of you is how much are we going to do? At one end, if you approve the budget transfer that's being talked about, it will move ahead as it's in front of us now. If you don't allocate that much, then there'll have to be decisions made. What are we going to do less of? Now, to your questions, we have no plan in place yet what budget transfer would happen. We'd have to look at the capital fund to see what could be available to move. We do have what we call Public Works unallocated, where we have some appropriated money that's available for a situation like this. I'm not sure what's there right now, so I have to look into that. On operating, it's mostly the same operation, so I wouldn't significantly change our operating costs, although we are adding, as planned now, air conditioning that didn't exist. So there will be some additional cost for that. I don't have any estimate of what that would be, though.
I mean, $600,000. I mean, I know we say if it's $1, it's taxpayer dollars. If it's $600, I mean, it's all taxpayer dollars. Do we want to allocate and execute another $600,000 at this point, or are we better suited to continue moving forward like Ted shared? This is happening. I mean, it's not like this building's not, it's there. So outfitting it with other resources that could be available in the maintenance facility. I don't know. I mean, I'm not best suited to answer that. You are, or the Farm Museum would be. Can they get everything they want done through the DPW resources?
Yeah, I don't believe that that's an option. That was suggested over the last couple of weeks when we've been meeting to look at this. And, I think with regard to, the time that it would take, staff time to even try to transport, materials and goods to the shop, to do that, I just don't think it's a very cost-efficient use of the staff time. Commissioner Kyler, you mentioned, the jewels of Carroll County that we have here, and I believe that the Carroll County Farm Museum is one of those jewels. And, as you've experienced just this weekend with the wine festival, and the staff there, according to Jane, the maintenance staff, they're some of the best maintenance workers that we've had there at the Farm Museum. And I really believe that they, we owe it to them to give them the tools and resources to do the job, to care for the buildings there, to care for the grounds. It's a big job. It's a big task out there. You've seen the buildings. A lot of them are older buildings, and they need constant care and upkeep. And I think we're at this point in time that we've a lot of time has passed that we've put them at a disadvantage to do their job. And so I think I'm really thankful that you're ready to move forward with something. I think re-engineering. I don't think we're going to gain as much as we would lose with time and other escalating costs. So I really feel like we have to take a serious look at this to say these gentlemen that are working in the maintenance there, it's a critical facility for them to be able to do their job safely. And I think that, we need to give them the tools and resources to do that. And it's unfortunate that we had the circumstances of the burning of the building that we did. That's through no one's fault, but we're here, and I think we need to move forward to give them the tools and resources.
Yeah, and I'm for this. I'm for moving forward, in the sense that, like you said, give them the tools and resources necessary. I'm just looking at redundancy and duplication. I can handle redundancy because if one place breaks down, you have another place to pick up the slack. I'm challenged with things that are challenged with things that are duplicate, in services or in resources.
Well, Commissioner, maybe I can speak a little bit to that if that
Sure.
might help. So certainly the point about having to transport something so many miles with so much staff time to get something somewhere, right? And Commissioner Kyler probably knows about, and probably you too from your service in the military, right? Is that it's better to have things on hand, right? If I take something over to the Meadow Branch facility and I forget, I should have brought these fence posts or something else as well, having to take the time to go back to get it again. Let's say that there's a scheduling conflict. Maybe another crew needs one of those facilities over at Meadow Branch, and the Farm Museum needs something for tomorrow, right? You have 3 individuals right now who are designated specifically for the Farm Museum, and everything they do is for the Farm Museum. And so while I certainly take the point of the redundancy, it's good to have a backup. We shouldn't be relying on, in my mind, we shouldn't be relying on the backup if we can do something in-house on site at the Farm Museum. So in my mind, and again, I mean no disrespect, so in my mind, it's really not a duplicate as much as it is having the backup and making sure that the Farm Museum workers have what they need on site to do what they do. As a matter of fact, I think probably my first report from the Farm Museum going back to December or January, and Jane, you'll have to correct me, there was some sign that had been lying in disuse somewhere on the farm property that the guys out of the Farm Museum were able to find, recover, and fix on site. And having that ability to work on site to recover things means that we're spending less money at the Farm Museum itself. I think something else you shared with me yesterday is that there's a gentleman who's repaired every single picnic bench at the Farm Museum rather than going out to buy new ones. That's because they have the capacity to do it at the Farm Museum. And so while this is certainly an outlay of a significant cost, at the inception of this, having the long-term use of it, I think, is going to end up paying us back over time.
And that was my concern, why I asked about the value engineering. If there's some simple value engineering to do, that's great. If you got to redesign and spend engineers, maybe rebid it, costs aren't going down currently, and costs have gone up a lot since 2021. And my worry is if the maintenance facility set between the Ag Center and the Farm Museum, I'd feel differently. But are we going to try to save money here, some one-time money, and increase ongoing forever and ever and ever? So while this hurts, and like I say, it is one-time money. And can you raise your right hand and say you won't come back and ask for more?
I'll be back next week asking for it, so still have a week to decide.
But I just think, and you guys visited, and you've seen it lately, and it just sounds like this will end up being money well spent. Now, it's a lot of money, but money well spent.
Well, and I think we all can agree it's a lot of money. No, I don't think any of us sitting up here are taking the attitude of, well, let's just spend money to spend money. We're all definitely not in that position, and I think we all completely agree on that. And I mean, Mr. Boki, you all did come up with some ways to remove some additional costs. If I remember from our conversation, was what, a $250,000 savings that was worked out at one point within this process, if I remember?
Yeah, so we kind of looked at some value engineering on our own without really going back out to rebid. I would say we can maybe save 5 to 10% by reducing some of the services that are offered right there.
So you're saying 60,000, you can reduce this?
Plus or minus. But I just to be clear, we're talking about taking out a bathroom. The bathroom is within 500 feet, which meets code. But again, is that something we want to do to the staff? Make them traverse to another building, inclement weather, through the welcome house.
Are the resources of this maintenance facility used or available for the Ag Center at any given time?
I don't know that they have used that before. No.
I wonder if we can, they're a strong nonprofit, they, like you said, a jewel of Carroll County, that may strengthen a partnership.
Something certainly we can look into.
Yeah.
If they have a need and, that's available. So.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think we need to be cautious. What I've seen over my lifetime, you have a loader, and it has an operator, and it's one place it's working. It'll last way longer than if it's used by 3 different people that don't care as much. And not that they'd be that way, but it's just, again, I don't want to see us save money that's going to cost us money later.
And there's probably some liability issues or
insurance,
that you'd have to consider.
But I mean, I just take a look.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea.
So, okay. So it sounds like the sentiment from the board is not to reevaluate. There's no value in doing that. So it's either we move forward with this or we don't move forward with this. And I appreciate both of you sharing because, again, you got the expertise, and that means a lot, in making this decision.
And the lady in back's been staring at us like,
I know.
you better do
Trust me. I'm getting piercing looks. Trust me. I
He's
know.
the real backup today.
I know. I got him.
The muscle behind us.
I got the holes in my chest.
Well, before you get any more, allow me to make a motion to direct Public Works staff to move forward with the proposed design and prepare a request for additional funding.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Is there any further discussion? And again, I appreciate all the dialogue. I thought Ted was coming back up to the mic. He's saying, I've had enough of this.
He's going to get the money.
He's going. That's right. Go, Ted.
I got the suitcase in the back.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the conversation. Let's talk about FY24 Child Support Administration Cooperative Reimbursement Agreement.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I'll defer to you first.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Corey Hardinger with the Grants Office. I'm here today with Magistrate Catherine Brewer-Poole, and we're going to discuss the FY24 Child Support Administration's Cooperative Reimbursement Agreement for the Circuit Court. The Sheriff's Department will be up later to talk about their piece of it. Also here today is Donna Thompson from the Department of Social Services and Rachel Miller, who is Magistrate Poole's assistant and who really takes care of the grant application, which is very lengthy, complicated, and time-consuming. So Rachel handles that very well each year. So I'll let Magistrate Brewer-Poole give you an update on her work and the court's role in child support cases, and then answer any questions that you might have.
So if she does all that, what do you do?
She has to do the hard part.
It's a multifaceted application that requires lots of people to do lots of stuff. So, I'm going to take it downstairs to PDS and mail it to.
That's right.
Yes.
It's important. That's important work.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 25 years now. I am fortunate to be able to do it, and I think that we've been able to. We have a very good relationship with the State Department and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in meeting their goals that they set for us to proceed with. Wednesday is my designated child support day. Certainly some days, sometimes I hear special set cases other than that. And as indicated in the briefing paper, together with my 4D cases to establish paternity or child support, along with the paternity, with the contempts on Fridays, usually there's about 44 cases set each month. Unfortunately, the Attorney General's office is makes quick work of them sometimes, so that allows us to certainly keep those numbers up.
Our attorneys general?
We have assistant attorneys general that are appointed by the Attorney General's office to prosecute's not a great word, but to handle all of these cases.
I apologize. The state or federal?
State.
Attorney General's office,
General.
not state's attorney's office.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I got that, but
Yeah.
I'm just asking if it's Attorney General from Maryland
Yes.
or
Yes.
federal. That's all.
No, state.
Okay.
So it used to be that our attorneys who prosecuted these cases, et cetera, were all through the state's attorney's office, and then there came a time that they went to the attorney's general's office. They're all attorneys general now, assistant attorneys general, I should say.
Is 53,700 enough?
It is. At this point, I'm very careful, obviously, about that. But I think with the number of cases we have right now, it is sufficient to be doing what we're doing, which is fortunate. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw the footnote. I almost asked a dumb question, but the county portion is budgeted.
Correct. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. I always like to hear that. If not, Ted would be in the room.
Motion to approve the submission of the FY24 Child Support Administration Cooperative Reimbursement Agreement and accept the award.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the approval to submit application and acceptance of the award to FY24 Violence Against Women Act.
Good morning, Commissioners. Debbie Staniford, Grants Office.
Morning.
I am joined by William Saucy with the State's Attorney's Office. We are here to talk to you about the annual award that we receive from the Violence Against Women Act grant. This grant has been awarded to the county for many years, and we use it to pay a portion of the DV prosecutor's salary and benefits. The grant is flat funded this year. Only current grantees are allowed to apply, and for the award that we were received last year. County cash match is budgeted, and I will turn it over to Mr. Saucy to discuss with you what the work of the unit and answer any questions that you have.
Yep.
Good morning. My name is Will Saucy. I'm the current DV prosecutor in the Carroll County State's Attorney's Office. I've been in this position for approximately 3 to 4 months. I'm still new to it. I'm still learning as I go. But the main point of this grant and my position is to work with domestic violence crimes in the county and ensure they're prosecuted to the full extent of the law. As you may be aware, domestic violence is a issue always in every county and every state across the country. We work to ensure that our county victims are addressed and that they have justice found even when the victim isn't responsive. We work on doing victimless crime prosecutions, where the cycle that keeps DV victims attached to their abuser, we try to prevent that, mitigate it, or fix it if we can. It's always hard to do, but I work with other people in our special victims unit who have helped me train me on how to do this and do it well. I'm open to any questions you guys may have.
No, appreciate it, and congratulations on your new position as well.
I will also notify you just now that Ms. Rebecca Neal is going to be taking over my position in about a month and a half,
fair long.
because we
Good
keep
luck to you.
shifting this on, but she should be around for a while because I don't think anyone else will be shuffling out of our office anytime soon.
Okay. Okay.
I will still be in the office, just in another position.
In another, but you're staying within the state's attorney's
Yes,
office?
sir.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Yes, I'm not leaving. I'm here to stay in Carroll County for a while.
Sounds like a plan. Debbie, you said that it's flat.
Yes, sir.
We've been getting this grant for quite some time.
Yeah. Probably 25 years.
Are all the other counties, they're not getting it? They're not going after this, or?
Oh, no, but there's just no new money. So there's not a, and right now they've limited it to current grantees because they haven't received an increase. It's federally funded.
Right.
Their allocation from the federal government has remained flat, and so our grants remain flat. And our portion goes up a little bit every year because costs go up.
Motion to approve the submission of the FY24 VAWA grant and accept the award.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second, any discussion on this? Again, thank you for your service. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you both very much.
Okay, with the Sheriff's Department, let's talk about the FY24 Child Support Enforcement Agreement.
I'm joined by Vicki
Morning.
McDonald,
Good morning.
Sheriff's Office, to talk about their work in child support enforcement. We do have a match in this grant, so it's a little complicated split, but it's about 2/3, 1/3. The federal government will pay about 2/3 of our costs, and then the county matches the balance of the program. And the cash match is budgeted for this as well, and I'll let Vicki talk about the program.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So we've had this in place since I've been here. It's been around for quite a long time as well, similar to VAWA, and the portion that the court that the magistrate was just here for, that kind of always goes hand in hand, which is why we're always here on the same day every year. So this actually funds an entire deputy position that is dedicated to child support enforcement. They work with those specific warrants, et cetera, work hand in hand with the Department of Social Services. They have a very specific role in the county, and the Sheriff's Office is responsible for handling this type of function. And it also funds 75% of an administrative assistant. So the costs for this go up and down a little bit every year depending what else the position requires. Some of a small portion and indirect. So that's why you see the differences. And yes, they have their own formula. We don't come up with the formula. We don't determine what the federal portion is versus the match, but it's always funded. The match is always funded.
How many from the Sheriff's Department over Social Services is grant funded?
I'm sorry?
There's deputies over the Social Services.
It's this one person.
It's just, but
This one-
but I thought there was more than one that's over there from the Sheriff's Department.
Not at Social Services.
Really? Okay.
He works with them. He drives back and
Yeah.
forth all the
No,
time.
last time I was over Social, I thought I remember seeing more than one.
Someone else could be assisting, like if there's an additional warrant or
Okay,
something
maybe
like
that's
that,
what
but
it
there's
was.
one that's assigned full-time.
And that
for
is grant funded, that's this individual?
Correct.
Got it.
And then an administrative position that's funded 75%.
Okay. Okay.
Motion to approve the submission of the FY24 Child Support Enforcement Agreement for the Sheriff's Office and accept the award.
Second.
Got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about the Sheriff's Office overtime grants.
So the sheriff's office.
One more round.
Stay here, Vicky. Sheriff receives several grants each year that fund overtime for very specific purposes. Some of those grants do not cover payroll taxes, and so we need to put county match on these grants. So that's why we're here before you with this approval. This year, the approximate budget for the overtime grants is around, I also round, even though I work for TED, about $165,000 with about $4,000 in county cash match required. So we are just here for your approval of that cash match. It is budgeted.
Motion to approve the county match for the sheriff's office overtime grants.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Do we see this during our budget? This dollar amount?
It's within the grant fund, so I would, yes, it's part of, I don't know if you see specifically.
But it doesn't
Depends
stand
on how
out.
specific the board chooses to get.
Okay.
So these are typical recurring grants every year through Maryland Highway Safety. A lot of them, we do request the FICA and Medicare benefits, but a few of the federal ones do not cover those costs. So it's about 3 to 4 right now out of our overtime grants, which is why you only see roughly, and it's a maximum amount that we estimate based on what we're being awarded for the overtime for the year. So we've decided to come before you once instead of waiting for a little piece of this grant, a little piece of that grant when we get there. So we've chosen over the last few years to come to you one time for the year.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much,
Commissioners.
ladies.
Thank you very much.
Okay, land resource management, let's talk about a little bit PFAS testing at the Public Safety Training Center.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Morning.
The Carroll County Department of Planning and Land Management entered into a contract on October 4th, 2021 with Tetra Tech to provide a PFAS industry expert to help guide Carroll County not only through the immediate preliminary analysis of the Public Safety Training Center site, but also to navigate the potential for future PFAS remediation efforts. Tetra Tech has also provided ongoing engineering support services in advance of site plan finalization and construction. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Planning and Land Management, requests your approval to award a contract to Tetra Tech for the on-site PFAS testing at the Public Safety Training Center in the amount of $99,100. Awarding this contract to Tetra Tech will, with their knowledge of the project, will not only provide standardization within the project, but will be cost-effective and in the best interest of the county, given the history of prior work that has already been completed. This project has been budgeted for, and the costs are within the adopted budget. No additional funds shall be required.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So we've had a lot of talk over the past year or so regarding the Public Safety Training Center and the PFAS contamination, where MDE essentially notified us that it's in all likelihood that the training center is a contaminated source of PFAS. So we hired Tetra Tech back in 2021, and they went through the process of testing the site. They performed approximately 21 test locations to basically affirm whether there was contamination on site there. And it was affirmed that there is contamination. So as you know, building construction is working on a site plan to redo the site. So there will be a lot of construction activity out there, including the removal of a lot of concrete and asphalt and some fill material. So the concern is that the cost of removing contaminated material and disposing of that properly can be very expensive. And so what we've determined is the best course of action is to re-engage Tetra Tech to further their testing, essentially perform an additional 27 locations, approximately 27 locations, to get a better informed idea as to what the limits of the contamination on site are, so that material that is not contaminated we can treat normally and save considerable dollars rather than assuming that everything is contaminated. So As Carrie mentioned, Tetra Tech did the previous work. They're experienced with the site and so on, and the design plans for the project are moving forward very quickly. So we felt it was in the best interest of the county to award the second contract to Tetra Tech to continue their testing out there and understand what it is that we'll be dealing with, so we can save money from a disposal perspective. So happy to answer any questions for you.
Is this in Westminster proper?
Yes, it is within the city.
The training center's within Westminster proper?
Yes.
It is. And but we own the training center?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And all of this was evidenced by a water supply well,
Right.
which is immediately downstream. And so several years ago, when MDE was testing community water supplies all across the state, this was one of the few that tested very hot for PFAS.
That's what I remember. But that well is within Westminster?
Yes.
Part of their water system.
Right,
Yes.
correct. So, but in doing this, there is no partnership in working with Westminster on this issue, except keeping them apprised of it, or?
Yes, yeah, we work cooperatively with them, but this project is purely a county project.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the second question is, if and when the contaminated soil needs to be removed, where does it get removed to?
So that's one of the reasons why we have Tetra Tech engaged with us for technical expertise, is that they are working with us and obviously building construction as far as what is the proper method to remove and transport and where can it be taken. I don't believe that it has been determined yet what the best appropriate site is, but it's not something that, for instance, that we could take to Northern Landfill or anything like that.
Correct.
Typically, they're landfills that are certified to accept this type of material.
Which can also be very costly because of transportation costs and distance. I mean, when I ran the installation, I had to deal with methane, and no place in Maryland was going to take methane, so we had to transport it down to Virginia, which cost a lot of money. So that's why I'm just curious about the transport of this dirt. So
That's a good question.
A couple questions. So I know in the FY24 budget, we set aside, I can't remember the exact amount. I mean, was it 4 or 5 million for PFAS mitigation in the county?
So there are actually two different line items, as it were. There are operating costs. I believe it's about $250,000 that was allocated for this fiscal year that this would come out of. So that's why this is budgeted for. We then have a long-term capital budget request that's several years out. That is our anticipation that once EPA and MDE determine how these types of sites need to be addressed, that we will be facing some sort of cleanup costs. And so that's why we set aside dollars in out years for a capital project.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to confirm, where the transfer of this particular money was coming from, and it is from the money we allocated as a board for this fiscal year budget. And then secondly, and you may not be able to answer this, but I know there was a settlement of sorts over this issue. So if you don't have the answer, that's okay, but curious the status of that, if we have a status of it, if any of those, we did retain a lawyer?
Yes, we did obtain outside counsel, Brown Greer Budd from Texas. Also, and our local contact is Jay Gullo. They are in settlement negotiations now. We don't have any dollar figures to report.
Okay.
3M, I think, was one of the defendants there.
Right.
Their proposed settlement, I think, was rejected by the judge at this point, so it's still up in the air. But there's no reason to anticipate we're going to be getting enough to take care of all the cleanup costs. But it'll go, somewhat, some ways there.
Yeah. The current litigation, correct me if I'm wrong, is primarily focused on drinking water and the treatment associated with those costs. I'm not sure that it's covering yet the site cleanup costs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so I move the Board of Commissioners award the contract for on-site testing at the Public Safety Training Center to Tetra Tech in the amount of $99,100.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I feel like an owl when somebody does a motion here and a second over here. I'm like, Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of legislative initiatives regarding procurement authority and reserving the right to hold permits for unpaid personal property taxes. Ladies.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning. She's hiding in the background. So we're bringing a couple initiatives to you. I'll discuss one and then we'll discuss the second one. So the first one, the Department of the Comptroller, even though with the Office of Procurement, even though she's under the Department of Comptroller, requests your support to submit a request to the delegation. This would allow us to raise the formal bid amount from the current $25,000 to $50,000. We're requesting this because we have seen such a rise in costs and everything, and with that, I'll let Maureen talk a little more about that.
We actually brought this to your attention last year, and we were a little late in getting that in. But as you know, $25,000 does not go nearly as far as it used to, and it is very time-consuming and costly to prepare bids. So we would like to see that limit raised to the $50,000 to help us with our workload and to save cost all around. So we're just asking again for your second approval, basically, to go forward with this.
Okay, let's take these one at a time. Is there a discussion regarding this?
Makes sense to me. It makes sense to me if we help streamline processes and we help to increase the efficiency of an already efficient department. Yeah, it just makes sense to me.
We had the conversation down in
And I
Annapolis.
think we talked last year about this, but my recollection, the more of the talk was what had to come before the board. I wasn't thinking about the bids and the time you guys save by this changing, and it makes
would
it
be
way more
helpful.
meaningful for me.
It's not a lack of caring for them, right?
Yeah, no, not completely.
Okay.
Motion to approve to raise the formal bid limit from $25,000 to $50,000, under which our procurement officer may authorize to be submitted to the Maryland General Assembly.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about the second. Property taxes.
So our second initiative is a little bit different. This is the first time I believe we brought this to the board. But the Comptroller Department, along with we had spoken to Permits Office a long time ago, would like to request your support to submit a request to the delegation to reserve the right to withhold building permits to business owners that are delinquent in their personal property tax. So a little background, personal property tax includes furniture, fixtures, office furniture, anything other than real property tax that they submit an annual return to the state, and then the state will send us and we'll issue a personal property tax bill. Currently, we don't have, other than going out and actually putting liens against that personal property, which would take a lot of manpower to go out and do. We don't really have any other way to enforce these. With that being said, we would like to see if we could propose to the delegation and get the authority to withhold a permit when a business would come in to propose work until they pay us their back taxes and delinquent taxes. Do you have anything?
No, other than we do it for the liquor board. That's already been established prior, and it works great. Yes. We know if they have a liquor license and they owe us money, we're going to get that money.
Have other jurisdictions done this, or are they pursuing it, or it's just you guys for right now?
We're the leaders in the pack.
But do others do it with liquor boards?
The liquor board is a state.
That's a state, so,
Yes. Yeah,
so there's
so-
a precedence that we're trying to piggyback on what the state's already doing with the liquor board.
Right, the liquor board is state, and the comptroller of Maryland has the authority to withhold liquor license for personal property tax or other taxes that are not paid.
Is there, have you had the conversation with the state comptroller as far as initiating this? Is there any, I don't want to say challenges, but effects that could occur by doing this? I mean, that are unseen right now, or?
We haven't pursued any conversation. I'd be more than happy to reach out.
But you think it's the next logical step?
Yeah.
And this,
I'm sorry.
I apologize. Do you want to go first, Commissioner?
Well, I was just going to say, a local bill like this might have a better probability of passing than if you tried to do it statewide. So.
Right.
And so my thinking, right, I'm looking at this and I notice that you reserve the right, which means that you will exercise discretion. Like, if, for example, if you know someone has had health issues or something, or there's some extenuating circumstance, this would allow you to be flexible dependent on the situation. And I respect that. I respect that.
Sure.
So 2 questions. I see, when I read hold permits, what kind of permits are we talking about? First thing that comes to mind is a building permit.
Yep.
But is that the type
It would be building,
talking about?
plumbing, electrical, anything that our permits department would issue to a business. And basically, we're saying that you can go ahead and continue doing business in the county while you still owe back taxes right now. This would allow us to say, I guess, prevent them from continuing business until they actually catch up or pay their taxes with us. The current process right now for delinquent is it gets referred to the county attorney's office, and then they have a lot of work and time put into that, and that's if we even get those monies. And if you recall, a couple months ago, I came to you and we wrote off quite a few personal property tax bills because they were found uncollectible. This is just another avenue that we thought would help us to collect those taxes.
And Commissioner Bigliotti touched on this a little bit, but some of us, having been relatively new in this role, have been concerned about the citizens' ability to appeal things and understand what the processes are, so they're not unduly penalized, or at least they understand, how to get things fixed. So, I know the reputation of your office is stellar, and I know these processes exist, but if this were to pass, I would hope that we'd take extra care just to make sure that people do understand, without having to look too hard, how to go ahead and appeal things and explain things and try to mitigate their own personal circumstances. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Motion to approve the initiative for the Comptroller's Office in conjunction with the Permits Office to reserve the right to hold permits for unpaid personal property taxes to be submitted to the Maryland General Assembly.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion second. Any further discussion on this? Good dialogue, appreciate all of it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about, what are we talking about? Management budget, operating, approval of resolution, I guess, O.
Yeah, it looks like an O.
24.02 for the sinkhole mitigation funding for Medford and Avondale roads.
Okay, last week you heard about a sinkhole and what we're planning to do about it, so I'm not going to go through all that. I'm just here to take care of the mechanics to get this done, and that would be for you to approve moving $191,823 from the reserve for contingencies to the budget of roads operations.
Motion to approve Resolution O.24-02 for sinkhole mitigation at Medford and Avondale roads.
Second.
That is an O, right? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Operating.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second to, so we're moving this $191,823, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, now let's talk about what we're going to do with these sinkholes and the emergency road work necessary.
Don't give us a sinking feeling about this. I want some hope.
That's not good at all. Content delivery was not there, so let's just move on.
I'll try better next time.
You need to do a lot of things. Okay. See, that's delivery, that's content. Okay. Maureen.
The Department of Public Works was before the board on August the 31st of this year to provide a briefing on the status of sinkhole mitigation work at Medford and Avondale Roads. Now, the Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Works, is requesting your approval to make final payment to Hillis Carnes Engineering Associates for the subsurfacing improvements in the amount of $191,823. And with the board's approval of the transfer of funds, this cost is now approved in the FY24 budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. And again, we were before you last week in August and briefed you on all the operations that were going on at Medford and Avondale Roads. And again, this is for the repair of a sinkhole that was discovered in that area, and to allow us to pay our contractor. Both myself and our hydrologist, Zachary Neal, are here should you have any additional questions or anything we can help you with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we heard it last week, so.
Motion to approve supplemental appropriation of $191,823, which will fund the emergency sinkhole repairs at the intersection of Avondale and Medford Roads.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, bring us home talking about the remove and replace side steps and sidewalks.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning. Morning, everybody.
Morning. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Facilities, requests your approval to award HTI Contractors a contract in the amount of $31,415 for the removal and replacement of the steps and sidewalk at the side entrance of the courthouse annex. HTI Contractors is a term contractor with Carroll County, and the Bureau of Facilities did solicit quotations from the 4 contractors. This amount is within the fiscal year 24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
All right, Commissioners, this section of the annex was built in 1956, and the work is needed to preserve the structural integrity as well as the building aesthetics. This stairwell and sidewalks located on the alley side of the courthouse annex. HTI will be installing new handrail down the steps along with the top of the wall as well. This project's pretty cut and dry. Thad here is here to answer any questions you may have regarding this project, but we don't foresee any major issues on the outcome of this.
I always enjoy using somebody local.
Yeah.
So.
Motion to approve the award of a contract to HTI Contractors in the amount of $31,415 for the removal and replacement of the steps and sidewalk at the courthouse annex.
Second.
Got a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? We could take the next 45 minutes and talk about it if you want. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Roberta, do you have anything for open admin? Tim, do you have anything for open admin?
Oh, sure.
Are you sure? Okay, just give me time to think about it. Wanda, why don't you come on up? Does anybody here have anything we want to discuss?
Not this week, nope.
For the good of the group, good of the county?
I want to ask if there's any public comment just online, just in case.
What's your name? Chris. Any public comment?
Nothing to see here, Bill.
Okay, now that was funny, the content and delivery, not bad. Just wait till I get you next time. Okay. Monday, September 25th. Nothing scheduled. The Tuesday, 26th, I'll be participating virtually in the Maryland's Governor Workforce Development Board quarterly meeting. Nothing scheduled on the 27th. On Thursday, we go into open session where we'll have, prior to Carol, a proclamation. Then we will be having briefing discussion, potential decisions on approving approving properties to participate in the state program, Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program, or otherwise known as MALF. Do I need to read all the properties, you think? Okay. Then clarification to the definition in Chapter 158 regarding drug treatment facilities. Then we'll talk about Westminster area sidewalk improvements. Have we figured out, is that safe sidewalks or is that safe?
It's not safe route to schools.
Okay, thanks. And then we'll talk about a contract renewal of a Laserfish data migration to MCCI managed cloud platform. That afternoon, Commissioner Kyler will be participating in the Carroll County Realtors installation of officers and directors. On Friday 29th and Saturday 30th, nothing scheduled, and Commissioner Gordon has the podcast for that Sunday.
And I wasn't paying attention, so if we can go back.
Absolutely.
Some of us are going on Monday to New Windsor Fire Department. I think, isn't
Is there
that the
a New
reschedule?
Windsor?
That's off.
That's off. That's just us.
That's just, yeah.
That's just us?
yeah.
Okay. I didn't, that was a rescheduled tour. I didn't know if it was still on or.
It's a meeting they've asked.
So,
But it's just
not
internal.
part of this?
No.
Gotcha.
Okay. Following week,
Hello, October.
October 2nd,
Not
3rd.
possible.
What's that?
Not possible. I'm not letting it happen.
Nothing is scheduled because
Roberta
Ms.
Wyndham says.
Wyndham said that October will not start. Wednesday, October 4th, Commissioner Gordon will be participating in a virtual Planning and Zoning Commission meeting at 6 p.m. Excuse me, 6 p.m. Thursday, October 5th, we start at 09 at, we'll have consideration of bond authorizing resolution from our comptroller, request for public hearing on Babylon Road, regarding Babylon Road, and then truck restrictions regarding Brown Road in District 2. I thought there was a public hearing, is it the week before? Did I miss something?
Yeah, there's a public hearing the week before on the,
There it is. The Chapter 158 regarding drug treatment facilities. I apologize. That is Thursday, September 28th. It is a public hearing, and I didn't share that, but it is a public hearing on the clarifications to the definitions in Chapter 158 regarding drug treatment facilities. 6 p.m. is the Carroll County Land Trust Annual Dinner Meeting. Currently, Commissioners Gordon, Kyler, and Vigliotti will be attending. I'm a tentative, but we'll leave it at that. Nothing scheduled for Friday. On Saturday, October 7th, Westminster Fire Department Annual Parade and Open House. Commissioners Gordon and Vigliotti will be waving. And Sunday, October 8th, Commissioner Garin, has the podcast. Did I do Wanda okay?
Good.
Okay.
And again, probably not for this. Were any of you invited to speak on it, act on it, focus conversations or something at Carroll Community College on the 3rd?
Nope.
I was, but I cannot
Well,
attend.
it's changed to the 24th.
Of October?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it should be something coming out. When they scheduled on the 3rd, they didn't realize they wanted to talk about critical race theory, and most of CCPS was at MABE. So, I talked to somebody about it, I don't know, 3 days ago, and I just said, you probably want them there.
Agreed.
So if you were interested, it'll be rescheduled.
Okay, anything else for open admin? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.